rise. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a full board here tonight. Chuck Ritter, Southbound Macula, Andy Kohler, Sharon Pierce, and Bill Tiegelman. First order here will be adoption of the agenda. And I believe that it's not on the agenda, but Ms. Pierce wanted to add an item as far as a discussion item, which we would put under new business.
Yeah, under new business, and it probably be like the last, so everybody else can maybe not want to stay around for this, but, I think it's was centered on the BOS letter, kind of kicks it off.
Okay, yeah, we will add that then to new business, final item on new business.
Do we need to vote on that, or?
Well,
we can just do it as a motion.
well, yes, we could have someone to second the motion to add that.
Yeah, I say,
Okay, we have a motion to add that to the agenda. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we need a vote on the agenda as amended. Entertain a motion.
I so move.
So moved. Second. Kohler seconded. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving on. Now, we have minutes. We have minutes from our January 25th meeting and from our February meeting, which have been distributed. There were some late changes on the January 25th that
Yeah, I didn't get to those.
we all read that. Bill has, I should have more copies, and I forgot to do that. Bill has a copy right now, if you can, it has to do. No,
Okay, where was the, beg pardon? Where was the change that you put on this? I'm looking at
the
this.
changes are near the end. I have to put up more copies and that one off the radar. And I can actually put it up on here for
Did you send them?
Yeah.
Where are we now? I'm not following this at all.
You know, it's what the sign in there.
But this is what we're voting on. right
That
here.
is?
This would be it, yes, and it's right here on the formal request, where it's the Wagner appeal, but it was not made, you had it where it was made by her, it was not, it was made by the chair. And then there was another change. What was that one? Oh, here. The standards for approving the application were read, and the board unanimously agreed unanimously that standards A, B, and J were not met.
It's okay, I don't know.
All right. I'm good with that.
Oh, there we go.
It had to do with the standards.
Yep.
So we're voting on the January minutes.
Wasn't
Motion
right.
on the second. And motion on the
Concerning the letter that we sent, that actually came to the board.
The motion for the January minutes is by. We have a motion and a second for approving the January minutes.
No, we haven't gotten to that point
Okay,
at this
okay.
point, and everyone else has read them, and, okay, so now I will entertain a motion
Okay.
to approve the January minutes. We have a motion from Mr. Kohler, and a second.
So
I
the
don't have
motion
the second
is
because I'm not
as
sure.
amended by Mr. Macos. Is that?
Okay.
Yeah, that would be appropriate. I mean, I think there's two versions actually listed on the
Yeah, there's, I think they're
on
here.
the
right?
document right now, so yeah, it says the amended motion, or the amended minutes. So, let's we do this real quickly, and I'm gonna ask for a motion for the amended minutes. We have a motion, I need a
Second.
have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
January's
Yeah,
approved.
I did.
February, I had no changes, I don't know if anybody else did. If they were done, I'll entertain a motion for the February minutes.
So moved.
Okay, need a second?
I will second.
Mr. Kohler seconds motion, all in favor? Aye. So the February minutes are approved. Okay, next item will be the annual report, which you received online. And we need to adopt that acceptance. I'm not exactly sure what we do with the annual report, but anyways, we need to have a vote on it, and then we will send it to the circuit court.
Motion to adopt and approve?
We have a motion to adopt and approve.
And I second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we've got that out of the way for another year. We're ahead of schedule. We should have done in like July or August or something. We're doing pretty good. Okay, then we've got two SUPs that were sent forward from the planning commission with approval, and we just need to look at the paperwork and ensure that everything's in place, and then schedule them for a public hearing. So the first one will be the SUP 22-08-02, the Cho Brogan Tourist Home, tax map 41-3-0 for a tourist home. I think it's a tourist home, yes, for a three-bedroom tourist home. I looked at the paperwork, it all seemed to be there, everybody else in agreement, that we have the required material in the house, and if so, I'll ask for a motion to place it on the public hearing for April.
I so move.
Move.
I'll second. With the question, we don't need the septic. This can be, that's just a tagline at the end to say that ensuring before we use the tourist home.
Correct, that would be, you know, if the health department,
We don't have to.
there are some questions on it, but the health department has sort of said it's, you know, up to the
Yeah.
property owner at this point, so, but what we'll do, yeah, we can deal with that as a condition when we have the public hearing.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to put the Blossom Lane on for next month. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and the second one is the SUP 23-02-02, Ellis Tourist Home, tax map 48-14H. This also was sent to the planning commission with recommendation to approve. And looking at the paperwork, I didn't find anything that was missing. I don't know.
No.
That's good.
Okay. If someone found anything amiss, then we will schedule that one for a public hearing in April, and then that'll take another motion.
I so move.
We have a motion,
Second.
we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that takes care of new business. And so now we actually have, we don't have any old business, and the new business that remains is the,
We do have all business.
okay?
That's not coming. The note taker,
No, we can talk about that under the procedural discussion, which we're gonna have, because that's gonna come up as part of that discussion. So, this is gonna be sort of a roundtable discussion, so I'm gonna open it up to the board to let their feelings come forth.
oh boy, I can't wait to jump in.
Well, are we discussing the
I mean,
secretary
we have,
position?
there's,
We're discussing the BOS and the,
there's several issues or items
Oh,
that
this letter that we got
are
here?
kind of floating around out there.
I haven't quite finished it, though.
One is our decision from last month. One is a decision regarding how we go forward with recording and recording the meetings, and also how the advertising and notifications are going to take place. And those tie together. So which one do you want to handle first?
I think the Board of Supervisors letter and the attendant discussions about BZA procedures is probably going to be more lengthy, so maybe we should get the others out of the way.
Okay, so you want to take care of the secretarial?
Yeah, there's a question about the,
We'll start with Bill.
all right, I'm temporary secretary, everybody knows, and I took this position with the proviso that we would find a note taker. Now, the Board of Supervisors has a note taker, and they hire her from the community, and she gets about $5,000 a year to do that. Something in that
That's not the
neighborhood.
Board of Supervisors, that would be the Planning Commission.
Oh, sorry, the Planning Commission, excuse me. And I'm being asked to do this for about 1/3 of that, and I think, I don't think that's fair. It's not a lot of fun, it's not easy, and I make enough mistakes, so it makes me look bad. So I'm really working hard to make this out right, but I don't think that I should get 1/3 of what the going rate is for people to do this. Furthermore, we have two secretarial jobs here. One of them is the recording secretary, which is the note taker, which I'm doing right now, and the other is the corresponding secretary. The corresponding secretary is secretarial duties are notifying the newspaper, checking to make sure the newspaper article is correct. If it's not, make sure it's put in again, identifying the appropriate neighboring properties that need to be notified, sending out the notices. And up till now, this job has been done by the county at the county expense. And they've, paid for good work and got it. That's, but the thing is now, they want to shift this over to me, or to the secretary, which I'm not, I'm just temporary secretary. And without some kind of compensation for that too, I don't think that's fair at all. And we need to figure this out. How is the county going to pay for this, or are they going to? If they're not paying for it, they're not getting it done. And if they're, I'll just finish up really quickly, pardon me. And if they're not getting it done, I'm wondering, are we even allowed to have meetings like this if we are unable to record them if we don't have a secretary? I don't know if that's so or not, but it occurs to me that the meetings are even happening because I'm taking the notes. And if I don't, somebody's going to have to step up, and nobody here wants to take the notes. It's a lot of work, it's not fun, and you're paid 1/3 the going rate. All right, I yield the floor.
My understanding when we voted previously, some months ago, about employing a note taker, and that had to be advertised in the newspaper for several weeks.
First, we needed to get a description.
Right,
of
and the description was
secretarial
Ron
job,
and
which-
Michelle, correct?
With the county, with
That's,
the deputy.
we have a deputy administrator now, and that's
Aha,
her feeling with.
okay. So that's what the hold is?
Partially, in that,
Before we can advertise, you're saying you need to know we have the funding?
It goes deeper than that, and let me give you some background here to go with. I did some research today. For 35 years, John McCarthy was the secretary for the BZA, he was the secretary for the Planning Commission, he was the secretary for the Parks Authority. He did it all. And he did-
Nobody's
and
John
he-
anymore.
He did it for 35 years.
Yeah.
And then when Debbie Kaiser was hired, it transitioned over to her, and she's listed on the minutes as being the secretary, as John was listed. If you go back into the minutes, they are listed as being the secretary for the board. So then it went to Debbie Kaiser, and she did it until she left. And at that point in time, it got confusing because they brought in Brenda Garden as an interim county manager, but she did not take on those responsibilities. So for our board at that time, we, or the board itself, voted to have David Connick do it because you have to have some legal knowledge when you're doing the secretarial position here, because there are legal things that you have to do. David had that skill.
Liabilities, right, legal liabilities.
That's right. David had that skill, and so he was perfect for the job, and he did it. He did a good job of it. But then he was removed from the board, and Julie took it over, and she was starting to get the hang of it and doing a good job, and then she had to leave. And that left us with basically 5 people that, in that area, really don't have a clue. It's not, it's not in the job description when you apply to be on the Board of Zoning Appeals. And the history in the county is it's never been the responsibility of the individual board members to take on those responsibilities. I personally have a problem with the secretary having to be a member of the board because it makes it very difficult for you to listen, to participate in what's going on because you're having to take notes. So it's not really appropriate for a board member to do that. So that leaves, as you mentioned, the Planning Commission, to my knowledge, and I've checked it out with a few people, they pay their note taker $5,000 a year. And our board is no different than the Planning Commission. The county can provide us with a note taker and pay them $5,000 a year.
Okay, that's fine, and I hardly endorse that.
But it still needs to be advertised.
Oh, it's however I don't care how they do it, it's not our job.
No, yeah, but then, now this just is the recording secretary, but we have considerable corresponding secretarial needs with the newspaper and corresponding to the adjacent neighbors who are required to be notified and all this kind of stuff. These are responsibilities above and beyond that $5,000. How do we expect to accommodate those needs?
Through recent history, that has been the job of the zoning administrator. That has been the job of the zoning administrator.
Right,
She
well,
does
that's
it,
as long
the
as I
zoning,
know
the
this
zoning
place is
administrator,
out.
the zoning administrator does it for the Planning Commission.
So now we have an abdication by the zoning administrator of those duties? Is that what we're saying? You're throwing your hands up, no more of that?
I don't think we need to involve the zoning administrator
Well,
in this
okay, no, yeah,
conversation.
let me see. It appears to me that
That's what has been
this is what I
indicated.
just stated, that these things, that this is being abandoned, that this responsibility is being abandoned by the people who've traditionally done it. Is that true? Is that what you're
That's
saying?
correct.
It seems to me that all of this could be resolved with a clearer definition. I mean, what the current definition under the BZA,
Yeah.
rules of procedure, which is what we're actually functioning under, is as follows. Secretary. At its annual meeting, the BZA shall elect a secretary. At that time, we elected you.
But we did it with the proviso that I was temporarily to do this, and I'm happy to do it for right now. I made the deal, I'm sticking with it. I just want to protest, okay?
Okay.
These minutes will be done, and I will do subsequent months if this goes against me, but I want a protest here, where all of a sudden, the responsibilities that I agreed to have been increased by a considerable amount without any consideration for me or asking me if I'd like to do it, this was not what we agreed to at that time, even though I did agree to be the secretary. That I agreed to a whole different set of, responsibilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
The definition goes on further. The secretary, who need not be a member of the board, shall handle all official correspondence necessary for the execution of the duties and functions of the BZA. Secretary shall keep the minutes of the board's proceedings, shall keep a file on each case which comes before the board, and perform other such duties as these rules may provide, and the BZA may from time to time assign. The secretary of the board shall notify the court at least 30 days in advance of the expiration of any term of office, and shall also notify the court promptly if any vacancy occurs. So when you agreed to be secretary, what the things that you did not agree to do were...
We went over all those provisions and we very specifically said that Michelle was going to make those, keeping the files, and this was very specifically agreed to at the time. Now, I understand the writing there, but I agreed to be temporary secretary on certain grounds. I think you accepted, you signed this looks like a sentence, I have to be secretary, I have to do it for this, and now I have to accept these extra responsibilities without compensation. Not sure. This is
Okay,
where we want to be.
Just let me interject here. There is a sentence left out of this that is in the state code, which says that the secretary need not be a member of the board.
It says that right, it's right
Right.
there.
Where?
I just read it.
Yes, you just got to read that.
Where
No, that was
is it?
good.
I don't see it in here. I know it's in the
It
code.
says the secretary who need not be a member of the board.
Well,
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's a-
Anyways, excuse me, anyway,
Okay,
so
but
it is,
at the
it
time,
is in there,
my-
it is in there, but traditionally, the secretary has not been a member of the board. The secretary of the planning commission is not a member of the board. And there's, as I just said, it's unfair to a board member to have to be the note taker, because you can't be the note taker and be an active participant in the meeting because you're having to write down all the notes.
and
So that's why it needs to be an employee that is hired to do that. And in the past, it has been the county manager. It has been the zoning administrator. It's been the secretary for the building official's office. They are employed by the county. And all I'm saying is that we're equal to them, and that's what the county's gonna have to provide.
well, I think if you're saying, if we all just decide that no one wants to be the secretary, they have to provide one. It's required of them.
It's not necessarily required, but, and I'll tell you right now, as, and you can overrule me, you can vote me out or whatever, but as chairman, the county is responsible for the advertising, the letter writing, all of those things that we're talking about. And in order for an item to be put on the agenda, those items are going to have to be taken care of. If they're not being taken care of, they will not appear on the BZA agenda. So if you have you know, if you're requesting an SUP and you go to the county and you give them all their information and they don't do the advertising or whatever, they may get to the planning commission, but I'm not gonna put it on the agenda.
Okay, let
Because-
me ask you
Okay,
a
but we
question.
need,
Ron.
yeah, what happened to the discussion with it's just, I don't know.
Speak up, please.
What happened about the discussion about the description of the various secretarial jobs that?
Those, yes, those go to the secretary, and the secretary is
No,
always
you
going-
were going, you, according to my, and I can find these notes eventually, but in one of the meetings, you indicated that you were going to go speak with the deputy county
did.
attorney.
And that was to get a note taker, and we got into that discussion, and quite honestly, it, you know, because other things, you only get paid $30 a month. I wasn't on top of it as well as I should have been, but then when Bill agreed to take on the secretarial position, I went, okay, that's what Julie did, that's what David Connick did,
And
and it
honestly,
worked.
that's what I
And-
did, frankly.
And you were doing it right. But that also includes other things which, in Julie's case, when we had the appeal on, I believe the dog kennel case on 211, she ended up being the person that got all the paperwork. The sheriff's deputies came to her front door and knocked on the door and gave her all this paperwork, and she's like, whoa, wait a minute. And that's not the way it went in the past, because it would go to the, you know, the
It
the
doesn't
county
make-
employee,
But
It
honestly,
and they get paid, and they get paid to do
It doesn't
that.
make any difference what happened in the past. In the past, we had a year and a half of no minutes for the Board of Supervisors, okay, under Debbie Kaiser. I mean, minutes are something that we just tend to take as a matter of fact, but they are important, and it is a definite skill. Now, there are several items that I'm aware of that were meant to be posted, put up in the board docs, and as far as I know, they're not there yet.
What are you-
Whose responsibility is it? Is
Well,
it
when are you
yours
talking
or
about
is it-
not getting up on board docs?
Well, the board docs, for one thing, the electronic participation policy just got up there like 4 days ago.
Okay,
But whose responsibility is it to post it? That's really the
That was-
question, Ron.
that's part of the confusion in that, in passing that, I assumed that because I'm new to this job, it's like Bill's new to the job, and basically you guys are new to the board, and it's an on-the-job training. And so you kind of muddle your way along, and you find out things. We passed the, you know, I thought on the electronic participation, you made a request, which I checked and found out, which I had never been notified, and apparently previous chairmans had not been notified, that we had to pass a policy in order to do that.
I understand that.
So, the very next meeting, I went online and found a boilerplate policy,
You did,
and we passed it. You made the motion to pass it.
I did.
And I thought that was it. You know, I did not know that it needed to be a signed document,
Right.
because there was no, you know, no rule book for me to look in. So yes, there was a delay on that, getting on board docs, but it, you
So
know,
you're not really sure whose responsibility it is to put it on board docs?
it would have been, I guess, no, I don't. It probably is the treasurer, but I don't know, or not the treasurer, the secretary, excuse me. It's probably the secretary, but in the past, when I was on the Parks Authority, whatever, all those things, John took care of them. And yes, that was the past, but that's what we're used to, and there was no training provided, there's no training provided to tell us that, you know, what's
So the Board
supposed
of
to be done. when.
Supervisors is gonna give us training now, which I
Computer
personally
program.
welcome.
Yeah.
Did they say that? Where?
Yeah, in the letter.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
What did they say?
It said we should get training. They didn't say they were going to provide any training.
Pretty sure they said they were going to provide you.
To seek as soon as possible further zoning and legal training. We need to seek out something. That wasn't, they didn't say they're going to provide it with us. It's just like FOIA training. I asked them about FOIA training for our FOIA officer, and I was told that they used to be handled by the county. They would, once a year, have FOIA training. They don't do that anymore. It's like, go online and find the course and get your training. That's the new world we're living in.
I enrolled in the training program that the county provided.
Well, that's for that was for zoning, right? That's not for FOIA.
And I went, enrolled in this, and I went to all their meetings online, Zoomed them, and they sent me all these materials. And then they had an exam at the end of it, and no question on the exam pertained to anything that they had sent me in materials or training or provided on video or anyway. And this was like days before the end of the course, and I said, got back to them, I said, what's going on here? And they went, oh, we're sorry, we messed up. And we had sent you all the wrong books and everything like this, and it's like, oh great, we can do it again. I didn't have time to do it again then, but I would like, I don't think I'm interested in doing it again online. If they want to have a in-person training, I think I could probably deal with that, but I'm not going to.
You are correct.
That was a lot of work
They're
for nothing.
encouraging us to seek it out. I took that same course.
Me too. Yeah, me too.
And I frankly find it very superficial and not of that direct use.
I took the live course, and it was great because it was interaction with people.
Right.
People from over here, Henrico has a problem,
And that-
Pulaski
and
has
that's
a
what's
problem,
good.
and that
Yeah.
is where and it's like on-the-job training. That was a very valuable course. I don't put a whole lot of stock in online training. It's,
I was so upset about it, I made them pay the county back for the cost.
thank you.
And they should, yeah, I agree.
And I thought there was they weren't even paying attention. They were-
And it's in the people that run the course, I mean, they were kind of, and I don't know if they've gone back to live training, but it was during the pandemic and they had no choice. But the Chandler that runs that course, I mean, you come out of there and you're going, yeah, I got an idea what I'm doing now.
Right, well, the course was.
Can we move on? This is.
Sure.
Well, it's only 7:30.
I'd be glad to investigate getting someone to come in and train us, both from a legal standpoint and the FOIA, if the board
Yeah, great.
so welcomes that.
And, okay, I mean, as far as legal goes, I mean, we actually have our attorney who is very well qualified.
Thank you, that's another point I want to make.
Good.
It is, I think we need to consider at least the vice chair, when there's a consultation with the lawyer, we don't know what you're asking the lawyer, and we don't really know what the lawyer's advice is. This is a legal situation, we're quasi-judicial, we're not a legislative body, we're not pandering to popular opinion, sorry, but we're not. I just lost.
Well, here,
Right.
I'll pick up the train of thought. There are a couple of things. One is, actually, talking to the attorney is extremely expensive.
Speak up.
Oh, talking to the attorney is very expensive, and I think it would be really helpful if we have an issue. It's too hard to get the whole board, but my suggestion was going to be that the chair and Sharon get on the telephone with the attorney so that we can have a broader point of view and.
I would welcome that. I also think it would not be necessary most times. For instance, it wouldn't be necessary with what we were looking at tonight, at least as far as I can see. It was very necessary before, and our opinion, frankly, it was like trying to get your arms around quicksand. I had no idea what the basis was, and there was no findings of fact or findings of law. And
Well, there were, but
I'm sorry, there weren't.
point then, if you're gonna bring it up, point out what wasn't specifically.
But that's it. They weren't there.
Which ones?
The motion referenced things that had happened and that became things decided.
No, I'm sorry, but that's wrong. And I don't mean to speak so forcefully, but I really found this opinion so upsetting. And I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, and Steph is a
Yeah.
family law, which is a whole different ball of wax, but it seems to me you were cherry picking things out of the Albemarle County land use thing, which, by the way, is the Code of Virginia. That's not just singular only to Albemarle County. It basically goes over the Code of Virginia as it applies to zoning. And
You're saying they're identical?
pardon?
You're saying they're identical?
I'm saying that, yes, in
Okay.
in that handbook. And it's very technical stuff. I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around, right?
Yes.
But the basis on what you picked, based your decision on, I think was not defensible.
That's your opinion.
Can I ask a question here? Is there some reason, that I think Ron showed that this decision had been made over and over in one.
That is
Let me just,
not
may I
right.
finish? Will you please, let me finish. You can respond to me as long and take as much time as you want. But I'm begging you, let me finish the sentence. Okay. Ron did a lot of real serious research, and he presented that there is no foundation for even requiring a special use permit here traditionally in the county. Now, if there's somebody who's been required to have those things, and people 25 more years ago have had these permissions, and someone else comes along and is required to get a permit when prior,
No.
let me finish, when prior people have not, then those people have been asked to get a permit in error. The precedent was set.
It was not.
Our job, excuse me, our job is to make sure that these things are applied fairly, that no one is unduly hampered because of some circumstance beyond their control or something like this. And the idea is fair is fair. And fair is that if everybody gets the law applied to them the same way, and it strikes me that that's what's going on here.
You're wrong.
No, that's
Well, tell me
wrong.
how.
Okay, go
It's-
ahead. You're the
it's-
lawyer.
Our job is to apply the ordinance as it's written in the code.
Of course.
The precedent, there's actually no written precedent, and although it's not clear that you need one, it really only applies to that particular person. That, in other words, the 60-day stop was being required, after the 60 days has elapsed, then the person who received that okay can't go back, can't be required to get a special use permit. So it's a precedent as to that particular person.
Okay. And so
And
so
in
there's
my
some reason
opinion,
why people
in
come.
my opinion, the precedent issue with regards to
The
the
precedent is,
lagger,
the precedent is,
the precedent issue was less to do with those particular training facilities than it was to do with generally certain kinds of dog training was permissible. And apparently other kinds is not. And there's really no basis for that in the code. And to me, that presented a problem, that the SUP would be dependent on what kind of training was going on and what kind of dog was being trained. And that seemed extremely problematic to me. But the precedent issue about 2 other places where there's actually no, I mean, I'm sure that they were told, or at least I know that the woman in Amosville was willing to write a letter to the effect that she had been told she didn't need a permit. But, so that is, so I don't think you could go and ask her to get a special use permit.
Guess who is her?
The
Joe?
person, no, the person in Amosville.
I see, yeah, right, it's too late, right. Well,
So,
I have a question about maybe we want to.
Am I gonna get you to talk, Bill, or are you just gonna keep
Well, she and I are in the middle of a discussion here, and as soon as we finish our discussion, we could say that if we've got all night.
No, we don't have all night.
I do.
You can stay here and have
I want to see it
conversation.
solved, the problem that confronted and solved, and I don't think we ought to really rush it along, but go ahead, you have your say, I'll reserve my question, go ahead, please, go ahead.
Code of Virginia supersedes the Code of Rappahannock County. Would you agree to that?
I'm not a lawyer, I don't agree to anything like that, I'm not,
Does
this is
anybody
not
disagree
stupid
with that?
in any way. Yes, perhaps this is true.
That's common knowledge.
And I can see that it might be, but I'm no authority on this. Why are you asking me?
because you've made all these assertions, frankly.
What?
Because
You
you've
made all
made a
these
number of
statements.
assertions which seem not to be.
Okay, can I ask a question here? And I'm obviously, I'm new to this, and I don't know what, I'm trying to learn about this, and you're the experts, and you're gonna help me out here, right? Okay, but what I wanna know is, this letter from the county here, from Debbie Donahue et al., it says, I encourage you and members of the BZA to seek as soon as possible further zoning and legal training. At whose expense?
I think I volunteered to investigate that, and I will find that out.
Okay, but I think this is a valid criticism, and I think it's something we should take to
It's a
heart.
valid question.
And I think it's something we take to heart, and those of us who are not legally trained.
Well,
produce a little bit of
Everybody
things
says
that you can't.
yes.
The answer to that is that we did have an attorney, and that attorney was in fact on, listening to the hearing, and in fact had gone over the motion that Ron made. So we did seek legal opinion, and his legal opinion.
Yeah, but that doesn't help those of us who have no legal training and weren't party to that discussion.
Okay, I'm lost here.
Is that true or not?
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think going forward, we need to have we've already agreed on that. Am I correct on that?
On what?
Agreed on what? We agreed on nothing.
Don't say you're not that bad.
Waiting for an interesting
Well,
discussion.
you know what, I'll make the motion.
Please.
I think that when we seek legal counsel for any issue pertaining to BZA business, that there should be 2 board members, and I'm suggesting Sharon Pierce and Ron Makala, in that discussion.
I would second that.
That's going to be, the way we have our legal person right now is an issue. Because he's in Roanoke.
It's what?
He's in Roanoke,
Oh,
and he's well qualified, but it makes it difficult to have the type of discussions you're talking about, in that you know, normally when you know, like that type of discussion to go to in his office, you know, we make arrangements, you go to the office, you all sit down, you have a
Nobody does
discussion.
that anymore, Ron.
What?
Nobody does that anymore. They do a conference calls or something of that sort.
Or Zoom.
Or Zoom,
Uh,
yeah. Do they
depends-
have appointments
it-
with you via Zoom?
It depends on where you live.
Yeah.
It's Rappahannock. Depends on how your Zoom works.
Yeah, it's-
You know, if your Zoom is kind of sketchy, it makes those kind of conversations quite difficult.
Staccato lines.
And, you know, and timing, and oftentimes timing can be critical in these situations, in that if something comes up and it's, you know, the morning of the meeting, and you got a question that you need to answer, so basically you're gonna have to coordinate with, you know, the two of us would have to coordinate, and then hopefully the attorney would be available, and you know, that's
And the weather will
that's
allow
not
you
a
to
good way to have a
Why don't
legal
we try? Let's
relationship.
see what happens.
I
could try.
Let me talk about it, because you're asking that if any consultation with attorney, that two of us, including the chair, be present. This is what your motion is?
Steph, you want to?
It's mine.
And
And I was suggesting in particular that Sharon be present.
I can't hear you.
I was suggesting that Sharon be the second.
so
I would
basically,
suggest that everybody be invited and that we have a minimum. Because I don't want that to happen without it being open to me. I won't vote for that.
Yeah, but then we have the problem of it's being a FOIA violation. We'd have to give public notice.
Right.
Then that's what we have to do, but I'm not going to do something like that. That's ridiculous.
Well, you
We
can
need, if
vote
we want
against it.
training, we'll come, let's have somebody, the Board of Supervisors has tacitly agreed to train us. Let's go for it.
they haven't.
Well, they said we need training. What are they-
No,
they're
they
gonna
said we
just-
need to seek training.
Well,
read
we're going to
that-
them
that
and
the
then
word
we're
seek
seeking
is
it from
very
the Board,
important.
and we're
I
seeking
Okay,
said
it.
there's a
I
motion
checked
on
it
the
out.
floor.
Okay,
Let's
vote
vote
for
on
none.
it.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I don't want,
Okay, we have,
I'm against the full.
I will call for the question. We have a motion on the floor.
All right, wait a
To,
minute.
and the motion now is that any legal conferences will include Sharon and anybody else on the board. Is that-
No, Ron,
So
the
if,
chairman.
okay, so if Bill has a question, or you have a question, or Andrew has a question, they have to get it to one of us, and then the two of us have to make arrangements to get together. Okay?
That's right.
I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Nay. You voted for it or against it?
I'm voting against it.
Oh, you said aye.
Well, you said who's against it, I said aye. And
Oh,
they
okay.
said aye.
It's a
Aye.
two and two,
Aye.
now it's a-
It's an aye, not an A like.
Can I add a thing to it?
Yeah.
A request,
Yeah.
a provision?
I mean, it could,
Could there be at least a discussion that there will be a conversation and the right of refusal to join, or at least a notice that there's a legal conversation being had in that way?
yeah, that's a great.
I agree.
Because I'm
That's a great idea.
not looking to,
Yeah.
you know, when you
Yeah.
get into a corporation and you have 20 people on the board, now you gotta, herd everybody in before you can make any decisions, so let's not get too many individuals trying to be involved.
No, here's the
It would be
problem.
nice to know.
Yeah, I think the notice is a great idea. If you have 3 board members,
A
then
FOIA, yeah, that's, of course, it's off the table, but
Well,
Yeah.
operationally, it can be.
We're in the middle of a vote here, so unless we want to
Okay, do we have a
rescind
second?
things
Oh,
I
and
second.
start all over again,
I second.
because, I mean, it's in your, sadly, it's in your
I'm the
ballpark
only one
right
who's,
now, and there's, you know, and then we can continue the discussion after the vote's done, because there's another item that you haven't
Okay, we
considered.
voted it. Was it in two?
are we
Yeah,
having
okay,
a
so
vote?
we can amend the motion to include that there will be notice to all members of the
Well, I-
board.
Okay,
Doesn't need
and
to
then,
be-
okay, if you what,
Doesn't-
okay, wait a minute.
Doesn't need to be all members.
No, but let's, if we're going to, let me finish. If we're going to amend the motion, that's fine. So make an amendment, now we can have a discussion because it's an amended motion, and then continue.
Okay.
So if that's where we're at, we're looking to amend the motion, so now you have a discussion on
Okay.
what is the amendment going to be?
Right, exactly, that's I'm ready, close.
Okay, so what is,
Did you?
what is
Did we?
the amendment?
Oh, but this is exciting stuff, come on.
I feel for you guys, tough stuff.
Oh, man.
Well, operationally.
Ministry loves company.
Operationally, first of all, we're not gonna use legal advice, I don't think, very often. But when we do, this is something that's gonna come up several weeks before the meeting. Andrew, you have a question about it, you can get a hold of Ron, though I'm not always successful in that. Or you can get a hold of me, usually you can get a hold of me. And say, I have a concern, this is it. And then Ron and I will discuss it with the attorney and get back to the board members. Is that reasonable?
I don't think so, because it's like any discussion. Andrew has, you're the guinea pig here.
Thank you.
He has a question, but the answer leads to another question. So he comes back, we give him the answer, and then we go back with another. It's not productive. It's not a productive way of doing it. And let me add another thing also is that there are times particularly when you have an appeal or whatever, where court papers are served and whoever's getting served needs to have a conference. They need to work with the attorney in order to ensure that what they're doing is correct, and the correct papers are getting filed and all this stuff. And that's, is that going to have to be a two people operation now?
Does that happen that often before, Ron?
It happened to Julie Combs, and it would have happened on Charlotte Wagner, but the case was dropped because she backed out of the real estate deal.
Okay.
It could have been today, and that
They
didn't
had
take place.
today to file, we may have somebody filed and don't know about it, right?
No, I believe that the letter is the end of it. But that's what I'm saying, it's there, different, you make a rule and then you find out, ooh, that rule's gonna really throw a monkey wrench into the works, because it's, like I said, in a situation like that, that's a one-on-one.
We can
You have like
revisit
30
it
days.
at any meeting, if it's necessary. We can revisit it. You don't, it's very difficult for things like this where we're trying a new method or whatever. It's very difficult to anticipate all the problems, but it's also not a good idea to just shut them off and say it's not going to work. I personally, I'm sorry, but I know I've had enough dealings with lawyers to know that the question you ask and how you ask it colors to a large extent the answer you get. Not always,
Absolutely.
but often.
That's it.
And I, frankly, after seeing what happened in this whole situation, I am not comfortable, and I can't say that strongly enough, I am not comfortable, Ron, with just you having a conversation with a lawyer.
That's fine.
Well,
I mean, and quite honestly, number one, I think part of the problem will be solved by us, although I like Mike Lockaby, he's an excellent attorney,
that's his name.
but he's in Roanoke, and there are attorneys in the immediate area that can service us probably equally as well, and it would lend itself to, and particularly if we need them to be at our meeting, because having your attorney on Zoom at the meeting is not like having them sitting at the end of the table.
Well, it's not been very effective.
But I
And
think,
so-
one thing, just as a practical matter, just to have in mind, I mean, I couldn't hear a word he was saying.
Oh,
Right.
well, let me bring up something else then. Oh, wait a minute. I'm not gonna bring it up right now, after we finish the vote, because they're still in the middle of
Yeah, okay.
making that decision.
Okay.
And the motion as it stands is for an amendment to, but we haven't actually articulated that.
Yeah, Andrew did.
Well, let's clear it for the notes.
Half the board wants a safety pin in place where there's a right of refusal to be involved in a legal discussion. The wording on that can be
Yeah, that's
potentially.
one.
We could use that, but I think it probably could be said a little bit more eloquently, or the legal jargon of it would be appropriate. It doesn't have to be a per discussion topic. It can be just on the matter that we're dealing with as it's getting charged. We'd like the ability, Sharon would like the ability to be involved in that legal sequence.
Okay, how about this?
Okay,
How about
you're
this?
gonna have
How
to
about
put
this?
that down.
I'm game for that.
How about this? Any legal discussion with the BZA attorney will require 2 individuals from the board.
Oh, that's,
Agreed.
It can be any 2 individuals. So if you've got, if you've got a question you want to ask, you get in touch with another board member, and the 2 of you, it could get out of hand, but.
Yeah, that's what I was.
But we have to have some faith in each other.
Yeah.
In that we're not going to abuse this privilege or whatever. But to do it that way, because that's, because conversations are and they're perfectly legal and acceptable, is that between board members on certain issues, there are one-on-one conversations that go on. And that's perfectly appropriate. And if you come up with a question, a legal question, that's when you go, well, we need an answer to that. Let's get in touch with the attorney, and yes, you need to run it, and it needs to be run through either the chair or the vice chair. Just so
I really think the
somebody's,
chair should be involved in this.
well, then run it through the chair. That's fine. But that would make it much easier to pull together than just having 2 people designated, so you have to take the questions to them, and then they go to the attorney, but then they come back and you have another question, so it's going back and forth this way, rather than the 2 people that have the question, they can have a discussion and get an adequate answer, because it may take 2 or 3 more questions to really straighten it out, because, that's the case on discussions. Somebody gives you an answer and you go, oh yeah, well, what about this? And, so that,
I have
that
an
clarifies things.
observation here, and I'd like to interject just to put a little color in here. We're being asked to seek legal and zoning training, and yet our only resource for legal zoning training is our lawyer. Now, you can't tell us that that's our resource and then tell us we can't use it because it's too expensive.
I didn't say that.
No, but there was this tenor of that, which I just wanted to.
Do I think-
Say it is expensive, we know that, but that's the price.
That's exactly.
That's the
yes.
price.
That's part of
I
doing
mean, and
business.
if we have to decide legal things, we need legal advice.
That is what a BZA is. It is not a legislative body. It is a quasi-judicial
Quasi-judicial, yes.
body.
And what
And-
does that mean?
Made up of people that are not lawyers.
And exactly, we're not lawyers, we're not well-trained. I think, this stuff is technical and it is difficult to get your head around. I welcome training.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, the competent
Absolutely.
training, let's revise that, competent training.
I will take training every opportunity that's presented to me.
Right.
But the way this letter was worded, it's our responsibility to go out and get it. No, it's the responsibility of the
No,
administration to provide it to the board.
Okay, and I've said I'd be willing to explore that.
Yeah,
I am completely lost now.
I think there's still a motion.
Where we
There is still a motion, yes. I'm aware of that.
So the motion as it goes is to, that any legal discussion with the BCA attorney, it requires the attendance of 2 board members And the consent of the chair, if he's not included in
The knowledge of the chair.
Oh, all right.
I would change that in,
And
but, because, I mean,
And
that gets
notification.
that gets
and
very
notification.
wrong in that the chair suddenly is deciding what, no, you can't ask that question.
No, but
No, I'm not
you just
taking
want to be
that.
notified so you can try to talk him out of it. Mayor, you just want to be notified, that's something.
Yes, yes.
And requires, the attendance requires the knowledge of two, and that way it's not, as long as, if I have a question and I'm coming to Ron and we can just move forward with him saying, I'll be on the phone with him this afternoon and I'm not available, I can just say, thank you. And leave it at that, I don't have to be in attendance, can we
Right.
just have it in there that it's not required attendance of 2 individuals and we're getting a little petty here?
Oh, don't worry, they won't buck your pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I'm happy to vote for that, as long as the other votes stay the same, sure.
I think, wait a minute, I think the whole purpose of the motion
Okay, so we
is
don't
to
want
have
the word
two
attendance.
people on the phone calls with the attorney, so that there is a common understanding
Yes,
Right.
of what the issue is and what the answer is.
yes.
So it defeats the motion to say that one of the people who has a question doesn't actually have to be on.
Okay. All right,
So it requires 2 people.
requires 2
And it
people,
can, any 2 people,
fair enough.
knowledge of the chairman.
And just, I have here notification
Notification.
of the chairman.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
now, that's what I said, knowledge of the chairman.
Yeah, 'cause
The chairman
that-
knows
So
that.
basically,
All right,
Okay.
all right. Then sure.
Yeah, because, and yes, and that, there's another reason that's important, is that the chairman has to approve the invoices that come through, so they need to have
No
that
one
working out.
surprises.
So,
Okay,
okay,
are we
so that's
ready?
it? So are we ready to vote?
Okay, that's,
All right.
All in favor? Aye.
aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Yay, we've done that. Now, because you just made a comment about not being able to hear, and Sharon has made that comment, and Bill has made that
What's
comment.
the comment from me?
About hearing.
You can't hear.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Just demonstrate.
Okay.
We can put a fine point on it.
On an email discussion with the county manager, county administrator, the other night, I asked that this board be treated equally with the planning commission
Fair enough.
in all cases. I thought that would be fair. I said, Board of Supervisors has a sound system. Planning Commission has a sound system. The BZA, no sound system. We want a sound system. The answer was, yes, we'll have it there Wednesday night.
Uh-oh.
No,
See a
it's
sound
not.
system?
No.
Well, we'll have to remind
I
them.
don't know.
My apologies, I forgot.
What?
Impact.
Yeah,
You what?
Yeah, she
I
forgot.
forgot.
Yes.
Good for him. We'll do it, we'll get it.
Okay, so
Under the
sound system?
circumstances, that's an interesting answer.
All right, now, can we return for a moment to the secretarial issue?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we approach the Board of Supervisors for funding, to approve funding, to hire someone who's is the equivalent of the planning commission's note taker.
Didn't we already?
And I,
No, we have to, I don't know that she'll do it.
and I think we need to advertise the budget.
The Marlena will do, she won't,
Who said anything about Marlena?
isn't that what?
Well, Marlena is the note taker, and she gets.
Oh, she's been for the planning commission for
that
who knows
was
how
Bill's
long.
motion.
Right.
As long as I've been here, I think. She's,
Right, but we need this similar,
but,
something going on here.
but
But we-
if she wanted to take it on, that would be fine, but
I mean,
I
she
somehow
wanted-
doubt that she's going to want to do that, so
Right, but we
basically.
need to
Oh, no,
advertise.
But it is not, it wasn't the planning commission that went out and made the arrangements for Marlena to take the notes. It was the county administrator, John McCarthy, that made those arrangements. It wasn't, you know, and I'm not willing to take on that responsibility. I'm not gonna do, you know, a job description and interviews and all that. No, I'm not gonna do that. I mean, you guys could do it if you want.
No, I'm not,
gonna do it.
not without compensation. I'm a busy person. I can't just like take on another full-time job. It's just not possible. And then, you know.
That's my point, is that they can provide a note taker for the board of supervisors, they can provide it for the planning commission, but they can't provide it for us.
I thought
Then fine.
there was money in the budget for
There
a
is.
note taker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that
How
means
much?
we can advertise.
How much? How much money?
$50 a month, but paying Marlena $5,000 a year. Big difference. It's a factor of 2.7 difference.
Well, board of supervisors meetings are
No,
considerably
no,
more than that.
no, planning commission.
Oh, I'm sorry, planning, well, they're more than us too.
They get,
No, they don't.
we get- planning commission stuff just comes to us. What's the difference?
It's a frickin' meeting. I mean, it's, you know, it's notes. It, you
Well, how
know,
are
if
we
you're here
gonna-
for
how
2
are we gonna
hours,
solve
it's 2
this?
hours, whether it's a planning commission
Now,
or
I
the
don't know
ZA.
how I'm gonna write notes for this discussion we had. How do I?
I know.
I'm gonna sit here, you know how many hours it's gonna take me to sit down and ferret through what we've said to make sense in notes? This is days' work. It's not just you go home and write it up.
Well, I agree with you, Bill, that note-taking, as well as being a secretary, are both very particular skills. There's some people that are good at it, and there's some people that aren't good at it.
That's
I'm
correct.
not good at it. and-
I'm not good at it either, I know that from
So-
experience.
Is there anybody on this board that would willingly take on that responsibility?
You know, I'll do it again.
No, it's permanent.
You are
It's a
loaded.
permanent position.
Get out of here, Stan.
No,
It's a
we're
permanent
talking
position.
about
You're gonna
doing
take
the
on-
correspondence,
Somebody
we're
needs,
talking
okay,
about.
but so somebody needs to do it, and we don't have that, right?
I think we need to, I think it's incumbent upon the county to provide these things for us. They can't just like say, oh, do it yourself.
Quite honestly,
They have some responsibilities here, and most of them, in this case, are fiduciary.
if you're willing to take it on, you
But
solve the
what-
problem.
You're gonna make the notices to the newspapers, you're gonna go
All
and look
of
at
it.
I'm
all.
not gonna do that.
You're
Oh,
gonna,
well then, I'm not gonna do that.
and who's gonna look up all the neighbors that need notification and send those out?
Okay?
No, these are the responsibilities that either the board of supervisors has to formally ask our zoning administrator to perform as it's been going on so far, and return to the status quo ante here, or we have to have provisions to have this done, but we can't, I don't, thank you, and I will take care of the notes I said until such time as we find someone. But I'm going to say this right now, I will tender my resignation in very short order if there's no action. I mean, not from the board, but from the secretarial position. And then we'll see who, but we have to determine what about the corresponding secretarial responsibilities. Now, these are suddenly thrown in our way, and it's just not a case of note-taking anymore. It's a lot of work. What if we got 6 applications, somebody has to go around and notify everybody and do these mailings, I mean, templates are not. You have to sit down there and go over maps of the county and find out whose property it is and find out who owns that property. And this could be days' work.
Sure.
Well, it's done for the planning commission, so it
Who does it for the planning commission?
You do it for the planning commission, right? Or are we not allowed to talk to her? You gotta tell me what the protocol is here.
Protocol is that it's always been done by the zoning administrator.
Right.
And
Well,
as far
I
as I'm
think we need to
concerned-
make that the board of supervisors to make a determination of who does this.
I don't care who makes the determination, I know that, you know, there's nobody on this board that's gonna do it. And if it's not done, then nothing goes on the agenda.
Right.
And if it doesn't go on the agenda, it's not gonna get passed.
And if
And
it
that's
doesn't
where we're
get
at.
posted in Boarddocs, it really doesn't happen.
Right, so, okay. So basically, are we ostensibly saying that this board has been shut down?
It hasn't
Is
yet,
that what
but
they-
if the
in
material,
essence, this
if
is
things
what
are
they-
not done as legally required, then, yeah, there's no choice. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Huh. Is there any action we can take to obviate this potentiality?
Actually, we need probably to formally write a letter to the
Board of
county,
Supervisors?
well, to the Board of Supervisors, yes, to
The
the
Board
chairman of the Board of
Supervisors and
Supervisors,
their-
advising them that this is basically the way we are willing to do, the only way we're willing to do business. And so if that's not done,
Well, not
They
every
can figure
county
it out.
has a BCA, so if that's what you're threatening, I
But-
think that's what I hear you threatening.
We're not threatening anything, we're just doing what we can do legally. We're only gonna be, we're already being reprimanded for doing things that are not legally, or whatever. We don't know.
Yeah,
Because we don't
because
think
that's
about
our
that. Now you're saying we, what are you saying?
That's a good question. What are you saying?
I've said what I'm saying.
I'd like to see this
Like I
letter
said,
penned.
It's not gonna get done by, apparently it's not gonna get done by anybody on this board. So if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done.
So
But if it
it's-
doesn't get done, then we can't put it on the agenda because it has to be advertised. So then it's not gonna happen. And we see what, if it comes to that point, then we'll see what happens. I guess we all go
All
to
right, well-
BZA jail,
Yeah.
or they'll fire us.
Well, I mean, we only can do what we're legally obliged and allowed to do. We can't make stuff up.
No,
Okay.
Why
and,
not?
but, but,
Last
but,
week-
You know, I mean, we can't go out and advertise, I mean, can we go out and advertise for a party to do this work?
I'm not gonna, if you can do that, no, that's the county's responsibility, to find the person to do it.
Right.
It's been the county's responsibility for
Out in tonight.
40, I don't know, John, I don't know when BZA meetings started, or when the planning commission meeting started, but John McCarthy was here for 35 years, and he did it for 35 years. He was the county administrator, and he took on that responsibility, not just for one board, but for the most part, all of the boards, and still had time to be the county administrator.
Didn't make them like John McCarthy ever again.
Uh,
So we need to send a letter to the Board of Supervisors, is that correct?
I would, you asked what we should do, that, we've got to notify them somehow in a semi-formal manner. So it's,
So we're gonna notify them of our secretarial requirements and, or how shall we put this?
Yeah, what
basically,
is this letter gonna have?
Hmm?
What's in the letter?
That's
it's,
why I asked, it's on last.
that depends on what we're willing to do. If there is nobody on, as we talked about, it's unfair to have somebody on the board be the note taker because it's very difficult for you to participate and vote and everything.
Well, there's another thing on
So-
that account too. I moved to pass the minutes. I feel a conflict of interest there because I wrote them. And when I did that, I
Another point,
and I'm not sure
but
that's even a
anyways,
motion when they.
that's what I'm saying. So we expect to be, basically, the letter needs to say that we expect to be treated as the same as the planning commission. The planning commission has a paid person that writes their
Right.
minutes.
But we
The
don't
paid,
know
the
who
planning
hired-
commission has
who
a
hired
paid
her.
person,
We don't know who hired her.
the county hired her. She works for the county, it's a stipend.
No, I know, but maybe the chair asked,
What, 20, 40 years ago, or, however long she's been doing it? We don't know that. And on this board, the secretary which is the corresponding secretary, the one who takes care of the legal matters and whatever, has been John McCarthy, it's been Debbie Kaiser.
But it doesn't make any sense for the county administrator to do that for the BZA, since sometimes
Right.
those two things are in conflict.
That's right.
Right.
So they're gonna have to,
It
That's
doesn't
what we
make
get
any
outside.
sense.
so they're gonna have to find somebody to do it. But we're, not- you know, that's, is it in our job description? Find it in the, you know, in the state code or whatever, that
If
we're
we-
responsible to find employees.
If we advertise,
If that's the case, we have to
And we
write their
get no
paychecks and
takers.
send, you know,
if we advertise and we get no takers, and the compensation is adequate, and I'm talking about equivalent to what the planning commission is, with an equal amount for a correspondence secretary, going and looking up all the local property owners and everything like that, so that would be double what Marlene is doing it. If we advertise for that, if we can get the money to do that, we can advertise for that, and we can't get anybody to do it, I'll do it for that, but that's it.
that's, you know,
So
that's,
you
that's,
would
that's not
not
another.
agree to receive legal documents?
What?
You know what?
You know, so if we get sued, somebody, just in the way that Julie
I can't hear you.
received, just in the way that Julie received notification because she's secretary of a suit being filed,
No,
are you saying that you don't want to do that?
I don't want to do, and I'm not, I'm willing to take the notes for now, and if I don't see action on that, I'm going to resign from being secretary, but because we need a note taker. I'm just wondering, I think we need to advertise for someone who is both a note taker, a corresponding, and a recording secretary. And I think that we need to know what we can pay those people, and we need to advertise for it. Because if
Correct.
you keep saying we.
If Sharon said, oh, I'll do it for $10,000 a year, well, then you can't do that. It's gotta be advertised and nobody's gonna take it, then she can say, okay, I'll do that for $10,000 a year.
We are not gonna be the employer.
Right. You can't make it.
Well, I can't, well, of course you can't, I mean, but
I
that's
mean-
not, somebody's got to
Yes,
pay
but
for that
The
service.
person, it's the county administration.
Right, well, they're requiring us to do it, we got
No.
an unfunded mandate here.
They're trying to require us to do it.
Well, we do have an item in our budget, as I recall, for secretary.
It's called what?
There is an item in our budget, as I recall, for a secretary.
Yeah, it's $150 a meeting.
Yeah, that's not worth it, and I'm doing it because no one else will, not because it's worth it.
And that's just to write the minutes.
Right.
That doesn't include all the research.
It doesn't include, notifying the paper, sending out the notices, checking that the paper's right, if it's, and then not republishing it, and all, just writing herd on the whole communications thing. That person's gonna have to be in contact with a lawyer pretty regularly, from time to time, just to make sure that if they're not a lawyer themselves, they're gonna need guidance.
That person needs an office.
And
They need a
could very well
computer,
need
they
an
need a
office,
copy
got a new
machine,
building over
they
there.
need paper, all those things. That's,
Postage, you're talking about, seriously.
Yes, it requires an office.
Well,
So,
we need
and we don't have the capacity to do that.
Well, we need funding, the supervisors are on the high horse about this, let's get them to kick in. They can't just go like, oh, do this, they have to participate.
I agree with that. I'm not writing a letter. They don't want to hear a letter, they don't want a letter from me, so they're not gonna get one. So somebody on this board, or two of you can get together, that way, we don't have to have an advertised meeting. Two of you decide to get together and put together the letter.
Okay, Sharon, you want to do it?
Will you do it with me? Okay.
Great, and then just, you can, when you got it all together, you just run it by us for a quick review and
Of course.
comments, okay, good.
Of
Okay.
course.
Excellent.
All right.
We're making progress.
Okay, and we will send that letter out to everybody.
Well, yeah, I mean, you basically compose the letter, bring it to the board will look at it, go, yeah, that looks good, and it gets transmitted. So, we've gotten through all this.
Okay,
It's actually not that late, it's 20 after 8. I believe that is, everything
okay,
we have.
there was a motion, was that a motion?
What?
Was that a motion that we should, that Steph and Sharon will write a penance letter?
We can make it as a motion if you want
I
to do
think we
that.
should.
Okay, go ahead.
I move that we have Steph and Sharon get together and pen a letter to the Board of Supervisors, just describing.
Outlining our clerical requirements,
Right, okay,
or secretarial. either way.
right. Regarding our secretarial needs, regarding our secretary.
Yep,
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay.
Please, we've run out of things to talk about, and I'll entertain a
I'm sorry,
motion to adjourn.
I did second it.
We have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, all in favor?
For which, for adjourn?
Yes.
Oh, good, okay.
Aye. Are you guys gonna vote in the?
Oh, I say, yeah, let's adjourn.
Okay, we're adjourned.